start?
No, I started out. Oh, you started out. I'm sorry. Yeah, I looked at, you're exactly right. I might congratulate people for getting here.
Yeah. Well, good morning. Are you ready to get started? I want to thank you all for being here on this chilly Iowa morning, so thank you. 2 weeks ago, Governor Branstad outlined the centerpiece of our legislative agenda this year, and it is the Home-Based Iowa Act. We've been encouraged by the warm reception that this proposal has received from legislators of both parties in both chambers, as well as the great enthusiasm from the veterans community. And we're already making great progress as it relates to this legislation. Last week, the Senate Ways and Means Committee passed one important element of this proposal, and that is the income tax exemption for military pensions. Our team will continue working to see that provision through the entire legislative process. And we're making progress toward having Iowa become the destination for veterans to continue their education. In his condition of the state remarks, the governor called also for a uniform policy at our community colleges granting automatic in-state tuition for veterans, but not only veterans, their spouses and their dependents. In response to the governor's call, the State Board of Education acted, joining the regents and adopting such a policy. And last week, we convened a working group to develop more consistent policies for granting academic credit for military training and experience at our institutions of higher education. Though we've made great progress early in the session, we know that there certainly is still a lot of work to be done. And we look forward to working with the legislature on other important elements of the Home-Based Iowa agenda, such as to increase support for the Military Home Ownership Assistance Program, to have permissive veterans preference, to provide veterans credit in occupational licensing for military training and experience, and to provide free veterans-related license plates. So that's just a few of the additional initiatives that we will be working on that really make up the Home-Based Iowa initiative. And at this point, I would like to turn the podium over to Governor Branstad.
Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds. And I'd like to thank the Home-Based Iowa co-chairs, Congressman Leonard Boswell and Casey's General Stores CEO, Bob Myers, for again joining us this morning. They have been here a lot, and they've done great things. I know they've been on the phone making calls, and we really appreciate their leadership. As you may remember, in December, we announced the Home-Based Iowa Business and Home-Based Iowa Community designations. This concept has been welcomed by business community leaders throughout the state. Both Greene County and Howard County are actively pursuing Home-Based Iowa designations, and other communities are exploring the possibility. 2 businesses have completed the certification process, the Conley Group and Dickey Transport, pledging 125 jobs for veterans between them. Today, we are pleased to announce the addition of 20 more Home-Based Iowa businesses, the companies that are members of the Iowa Business Council. These are the leaders of Iowa business community. These are household names like Principal Financial Group, Alliant Energy, Mid-American, Wellmark, John Deere, Unity Point, DuPont Pioneer, and Mercy Health. These businesses are part of our everyday lives, such as Fairway, Hy-Vee, Wells Fargo, and Casey's General Stores. And these are market leaders like HNI Corporation, Kent Corporation, White's, Pella Corporation, Rockwell Collins, Bruin, Wells, and Vermeer. And they are going big. Collectively, they have set a goal of hiring 2,500 veterans over the course of the next 5 years. That is leadership. It is honoring and respecting our veterans. I sincerely thank the Iowa Business Council for its support of Home-Based Iowa and its support of our veterans. Now I'd like to turn the podium over to Larry Zimpelman, Chairman and President and CEO of Principal Financial Group and the incoming chair of the Iowa Business Council. Larry? Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Branstad, and good morning. It's a pleasure and honor to be here this morning to discuss the enthusiastic support of the Iowa Business Council for the governor's recently announced Home-Based Iowa initiative. As the governor just said, the Iowa Business Council is made up of leading Iowa businesses, our 3 Regents universities, and the Iowa Bankers Association. Collectively, we employ 1 in 8 Iowans. The Iowa Business Council has historically supported many programs for veterans, including employee resource groups and participation in hiring programs. So Home Base Iowa simply builds on our history of supporting our veterans. What is exciting about Home Base Iowa is that it allows the Iowa Business Council member companies to continue our support for veterans and to meet what is perhaps the biggest challenge for all Iowa Business Council companies, having access to a greater supply of highly skilled, hardworking, and dedicated talent to fill the jobs of the future. The Iowa Business Council pledges, as the governor just said, that we will hire 2,500 veterans over the next 5 years, and I personally believe that's a conservative estimate. We look forward to working with the Iowa Workforce Development to allow posting of employment opportunities on the Home Base Iowa site, and we intend to engage with the Skilled Iowa program to help that effort. Home Base Iowa is an exciting program that builds our Iowa workforce with the most talented group I know, our returning veterans. On behalf of the Iowa Business Council, I want to thank Governor Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds for their leadership on this issue. I also want to thank the two co-chairs of the initiative, Congressman Leonard Boswell and Bob Myers, the Chief Executive Officer of Casey's General Store and a member of the Iowa Business Council. So, Bob, thank you for your leadership. Would you please come forward and share some thoughts?
Well, good morning, everyone, and certainly I want to take this opportunity to thank the governor for asking Congressman Boswell and myself to co-chair this really significant effort to hire returning veterans, many of whom have spent years in the military and have spent numerous combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, providing for them, if you will, an opportunity to return back to their home state, often as is the case, and to find gainful employment back here. I want to thank the Iowa Business Council and certainly Larry Zippelman's leadership. Look forward to working with Larry and the Iowa Business Council in the future on this endeavor. And as an old soldier, I can tell you that I'm personally very excited about the opportunity to continue to help veterans here as they return to civilian life. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Larry, Colonel. It's good to be with you again. I look out here at this press and see Kay over here, and I realize that you've been around quite a while too, Kay. Well, I want to recognize she got some recognition for her expertise, and I'm proud of her for that. I'm probably the only one in the room can tell you exactly how to get the house she was raised in. But anyway, we're pretty excited about this. It's something that needs to be done. One thing that Mr. Myers and I have discovered as we've been on these number of calls, there's a lot of enthusiasm and there's a big need. And when we talk to companies that say that they are having trouble to find people to fill these jobs, and then we get to thinking about it and discovering what happened in our own lives and how do we interpret and translate the military occupational specialty over to civilian application and realize there's really a lot of balance in there. And we've kind of overlooked that. And this drawdown of troops that goes, this RIF, we call it, reduction in force, I think, well, over years, but after every conflict, it happens. Compound it with sequestration, and it makes it more. And there's lots of opportunity for us and a lot of need for young men and women in the forces between the ages of 20 and 30. Some will, a little older, will probably go out with early retirement maybe or so on. But those that are in their productive part of their lives, point of raising families and so on, all of a sudden, not a choice of theirs, they're saying we don't need you now. And we do need them. We've discovered that. The governor's been on that for some time, but we need to do this. And so the Business Council is someone that I learned when I came to the legislature years ago, is a prominent part of the respect for what happens in the business community in this state, across the nation really. Iowa Business Council is well recognized. And to have those 24 and the outreach that goes out to the other companies, as the governor has expressed, it's a big deal. We can do this, and we need to do it. It'll enhance our economy. It'll be doing a good thing for veterans, and It's appreciated by myself. As Bob said, us old soldiers appreciate that. I know when I left the service, you don't want to hear that detail. Hadn't planned on leaving at that time. I really wasn't ready to go. The circumstances personal, I decided I should do it. I was invited by Bell Helicopter to go to Saudi and run a helicopter school, and I couldn't do it. And as we got down to the encouragement, they said, well, where we're located, there's a nice little incentive for you as far as retirement is concerned for the military. But we don't do that in Iowa. The time has come. And I could go on and say the next one, I got a call from Halliburton to do something similar with them. I couldn't do it, but they said, but if you come with us, you get these advantages. So Iowa needs to do it. It needs to happen, and it's my conviction after listening to the legislature, after the governor's state of the state of the state, or the condition of the state, we call it. Bob and I was on the floor, and the encouragement was very high. People feel good about it. The need is here, and it's something we can do. So let's get it done. Thank you very much.
Congressman, thank you, and Bob Meyer, thank you, and Larry Zimpelman, and we'd be glad to respond to your questions.
I'm wondering if you could tell us what percentage or maybe how many of your current workforce are veterans?
Yeah, Kay, this would be, I would say, an approximation, because that's not necessarily something that that everyone volunteers, but I would say it's in the range of roughly 5% of our workforce today.
Yes.
Governor, when you say that you're going to hire 2,500 veterans, does that mean you had talked when you made this presentation to Camp Dodgewell, sending people out to military bases outside of state? So is this what that is going to be? These are all going to be people from outside the state, or is this going to be people who just happen to be veterans from Korea or Vietnam? Because
it's a combination. It's a combination. But we are going to make a concerted effort to reach out to people that have specific skills that companies have identified that they need, the bases where they might be located, and we're going to be actively doing some marketing there, and we'll be doing this online. We'll be some personal calls as well, and as the word gets out, and we've had some great support and publicity from the veterans organizations and others that's helped get us get the information out, and we're getting a really good response.
So these are not all going to be Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Some of them may be veterans from other past wars.
Yes, it could, absolutely. But we expect that there's going to be an influx. There's going to be a significantly higher number of veterans coming out of the military, as Congressman Boswell pointed out, because of the drawdown after the wars in the Middle East, in Afghanistan and Iraq, than normal. But there are other veterans from previous conflicts that we also want to help place in jobs as well. Other questions?
How many jobs, or is there a way to give a sense of how much Home-Based Iowa has done so far? I mean, placed in jobs?
Well, as you know, we just launched this in December, so here it is, January. But I can tell you just from the responses, the emails we've gotten, the letters, there is activity going on. And I believe that the Home-Based Iowa website will keep track of that. Workforce Development will continue to report on the progress. So this isn't the first press conference we've had on Home-Based Iowa. We intend to stay actively involved in this process. This is the centerpiece of our agenda before the legislature. I'm very pleased. I think the Senate is intending to take up the elimination of tax on military retirement, possibly even today. So this shows that they've got it on the fast track. Good things are happening. I'm very pleased that in the first week of the session, our renewable fuel standard resolutions passed both houses unanimously. So I think we're off to a good start, and this is very important. And obviously the tax exemption is significant, but it is only one of many parts of the home-based initiative that the Lieutenant Governor spelled out in her remarks.
I think the momentum is great, and it continues to grow, and you're seeing that happen all across the state. So not only with the Iowa Business Council, but with other businesses across the state of Iowa, communities and counties and businesses really engage in driving momentum and raising awareness, and that's what it's going to take, I think, to make the initiative successful.
The goal of 25 over 5 years, just private sector business making that commitment, or does that include the region?
It is a total Iowa Business Council number. Again, I'm not going to try to speak for the three Regents universities, but you know, my own thoughts would be is that a lot of the areas that the three Regents universities would be looking at hiring are certainly also areas where I think veterans have skills that that can apply. You know, in Bob's case, it may be more logistics people. In my case, at principal, it's likely to be more IT. So again, I can't speak for the regions, but again, I think the returning veterans come to us with a variety of skills that often map into different disciplines that are more important for certain Iowa Business Council members.
I would add to the regions, in addition to hiring veterans, which they are doing, they have also made the commitment to provide in-state tuition to the veterans, their spouses, and dependents. That's another significant commitment on behalf of the regions. Congressman?
Just a comment there on that. You know, the armed services cover the whole waterfront when it comes to about anything you can think of. Larry kind of touched on logistics to IT, transportation personnel, just goes on and on. They have to.
Law enforcement?
Law enforcement, yeah, law enforcement. That's right. And I think when the institutions of higher education get involved in this, they're going to see, you know, there's a lot of, we've overlooked this. And part of it, I think, is going to come to their attention because of the governor's effort, and part of the plan is to recognize what they've already been trained. We don't have to go back and retrain them to do something they've already learned, and we got to evaluate that, and that's part of the things that Bob and I are concerned about that we're getting done. It's there. It's no question about it. I'll give you one example, and it sounds like I'm tooting my horn. I'm not. When I finished flight school and realized, I didn't really know at the time, I was qualified. I had more preparation past what they required for the federal aviation to get a commercial pilot's license. All I had to do was go take a written exam, and they issued me a license. I'd exceeded everything else they'd asked. I went through helicopters, same thing. What you could go through area after area after area. We've never evaluated that. And I think that the regents and all the privates and the community college, everybody's going to say there's no reason to go back and require them to get credits for these things when they've done what they've done. So it's a lot of opportunity.
I would add professional licensing boards. We're asking them to look at the training that these military personnel have received to determine whether they can get a license quicker and without some of the requirements that otherwise would be required. So that's another area that we're looking at. We have a lot of different licensed professions in Iowa. I know that's a priority to make sure not just veterans but their spouses, because a lot of times spouses of veterans, when they move from base to base, have a difficult time getting licensed in a different state.
President Boswell, did you regret having a career in farming and politics instead of becoming a commercial pilot?
That has occurred to me a time or two. No, I think I've been very blessed. I've had a great life and a lot of opportunities to do things I didn't really have on my plans to do. Wasn't on my want list. So I'm just really, really happy that this effort is being made, and it's happened right here. And first state, I think, to make this kind of an effort, and it's long overdue.
But we appreciate, Congressman, that you did come back and serve the people. Thank you.
Lawmakers in the Senate today are discussing along the growth through the year. Do you think the legislature should set some number for that year as the law requires, and would you support it?
Well, first of all, it's an outmoded term. We made the decision that we were not going to set allowable growth because it raises property taxes. We made the commitment last year to a biennial budget that provides 4% additional supplemental state aid for school districts for the next 2 years and we also passed the teacher leadership plan, which will provide substantial increased funding over the next several years. I would point out, when Governor Culver was in office, Democrats controlled both houses of the legislature. They did not set allowable growth. And indeed, when I came back as governor, we had to make the decision. We had to put together a biennial budget. We had to get the financial house in order, and we had to make that decision in 2011.
Is there in your 5-year projection for a 6% increase in supplemental state aid?
No, there isn't. There isn't. And if you saw the Des Moines Register yesterday, we have projected out for 5 years the impact of the commitments we made last year to additional funding for education reform and for property tax relief. And there is not adequate funding in there to increase spending in schools by 6% a year.
I think it's important to remember, though, that we've made historic levels of putting additional money into the education process, and so now it's important that we implement the new teacher leader and compensation program. But, you know, for the largest amount of investment in education any other time in our state history was made in the last legislative session, and now we need to continue to make sure that we roll that out and implement education reform.
I think it is important that we implement what we committed to last year rather than take on new things that we may not be able to afford. It's outmoded and it should be changed, yes. Well, well, you know, I understand the politics of this, but I can also tell you that the same people that are pushing this, when they controlled the governor's office in both houses of the legislature, failed to do it.
Along with the politics of it, though, there's the perception that the public doesn't.
Perception is perception.
On what law they don't want to follow.
Well, unfortunately, the legislature has many times decided, you know, I've got another great example was the law that says you can only spend 99% of revenue. Remember that? Before I came back, and they were doing every year, they were passing dozens and dozens of it, and Congressman Boswell was part of passing that legislation. He was instrumental in working with me when we passed it, and it worked until they discovered they could put in an appropriation bill. Notwithstanding the law, we're going to just spend more, and they did it again and again. And I worked with State Auditor David Fountain. I said, we're going to stop that bad practice. We're going to see that we spend that we don't violate that spending limitation law that we've had on the books for all those years. And we did that. And that has worked. And that's the reason why the state's in the strong, healthy financial position we're in.
Are you comfortable with Governor Chairman?
Yes. I think he's done an excellent job. He was just reelected by an outstanding margin. And I guess I believe in our American system that people are innocent until proven guilty. In this case, he was unaware of what some staff people had done. When he became aware of it, he took decisive action. He fired them. He's also been very open about this. He had a press conference that lasted for nearly 2 hours, and he answered all the questions. I do not think he should be punished for what he didn't know.
How about McDonald? He was here as the keynote speaker for the Reagan dinner a year and a half ago, sponsored by the Iowa Republican Party. Are you giving him the same benefit of the doubt?
Well, of course, and I think anybody that an accusation is made against under our American system has a right to having a jury of their peers make a determination. You know, I know Bob McDonald. I think he was a very fine governor in Virginia, and I think that the legal system will determine whether or not there was any wrongdoing on his part or that of his wife. But again, he is no longer in office, and I don't think that really has anything to do with what's going on here in the state of Iowa.
Governor, your campaign put a lot of resources into attracting people to the Iowa caucus last week. How did that turn out? Are you satisfied with the results?
I'm very pleased. We had an excellent turnout for a non-presidential year, and I think we had a lot of visible people that were there to support the Branstad Reynolds ticket and want to go on to be actively engaged in our party. I'm also encouraged by the number of people that are interested in running for the legislature, for Congress, for the United States Senate. I contrast that to what's going on the other side of the aisle. You don't see near as much interest or enthusiasm as we see. And my goal is to revitalize the Republican Party, to encourage more people to get involved, especially young people, that we want to be an open and welcoming party that encourages participation. The young man that chaired my precinct caucus was Barnes Kelly. Now, Barnes Kelly is a Drake Law grad, just happens to be the grandson of Rob Kelly, which they named the Rob Kelly dinner off. Rob Kelly was the chair of my first campaign for governor, his grandfather. Bruce Kelly, his father, is the head of Employers Mutual. But here's a young man who is actively involved in the community. Also, Joy Corning, former lieutenant governor, was also at our caucus. But we saw people of all ages come out and participate all over the state. It was a cold night. It was snowing even a little bit. But despite that fact, I think we had a really good response and encouragement. I'm glad my campaign encouraged people to get involved and help us revitalize and encourage active participation in the party.
Do you think that the turnout in the delegate election that happened could change the makeup of the state party down the line?
Well, that's going to be up to the people that are delegates to determine who they want to represent them on the Central Committee. I don't want to speculate on that. My biggest interest is strengthen, revitalize the party, let people know that in Iowa we don't do things like they do in Washington, D.C. We're interested in bipartisan cooperation, accomplishing things. Last year we had great success, property tax relief, education reform, and our health and wellness plan. We have great bipartisan active involvement in this home-based Iowa, and the response we've gotten has been very good. And I think it's just a contrast to the kind of partisan divisiveness you see at the national level compared to the way things happen here in the state of Iowa. And a lot of that starts with the kind of leadership you have at the top. And I've tried to, as governor, set a tone of cooperation and collaboration and setting ambitious goals and working together. And the result is Iowa is working, and the nation, unfortunately, is not. The country is going the wrong direction, but Iowa's going in the right direction. And we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.